All right, welcome in. Welcome in. How is everybody doing tonight? I'm Big Duke. This is Big Duke's Virtual Race Hub. So, we got a little bit of interesting show planned tonight. As you can see, I'm setting up a practice server here on iRacing. It's going to be a private server, so only us are going to be in there. Hang on just a second. So, we're going to cover the basics of iRacing. Hang on, let me and fixed setup races, what you can expect, like what you can adjust, and how you can use those adjustments. So we got Talladega. So let's run Martinsville because it's easier to show brake bias there at Martinsville. Let's put a different car in there as well. Let's go with the truck. NASCAR truck. Here we go. All right, so the truck, we're going to have the Martinsville set up. We're going to go with the the standard Martinsville fixed setup for iRacing. So within iRacing, there are fixed setups and there are open setup lobbies. I primarily run fixed setup stuff because I don't get messing with the open setup market. There's ample amount of setup shops out there that know exactly what they're doing, that have got it all dialed in. They use all the same Motec programs that all the NASCAR teams use. So they know what they're doing. I can't compete with that. Like, you can't really compete with that. No, we're not going to Dega. Not to worry. Not to worry. We're going to Martinsville in the truck. But so I stick with the fixed setup stuff. I don't want to get into buying all the subscriptions and stuff with that. So I primarily stick to the fixed setup. So that's why I like giving advice on fixed setup racing because, well, that's what I race most. So let's go. So we got, all right. So we're going to launch the race. So we're not going to enter in as any of those cars. We're going to be in the truck here. And we're going to run front brake and we're going to run rear brake. And then I'm going to kind of teach you guys on the in-between what all that means and what all that does. No, Chris, nobody uses brakes at Dega. I'm with you. Let's see here. Let me go on this. So I want to make sure that I'm saying exactly everything right, but we're going to go into the server here in just a second. And honestly, I forgot what I made the password. As soon as it opens, I think it's all ours. Okay. So you just graduated from C class, or it's not C class, but you went from rookies. Now you're up into D class, and you can kind of start making some adjustments on the ARCA cars. And you see that you can make the brake bias adjustments, which I think you could on the late models too. I'm sorry, you could on the late models as well, but you might not know what that means. What is brake bias? Brake bias is the percentage of brake pressure when you press the brake, how much of that pressure goes to the front versus how much of that pressure goes to the rear. And that's what that adjustment tool is. And that brake bias is you can direct more pressure to the rear brake. You can direct more pressure to the front brake. Now, what does that do? How is that going to affect you? Well, quite simple. I, being the ADD person that I am, I visualize it better using 2 wheels instead of 4. For whatever reason, it just is what it is, right? So think about if you're on a bicycle, right? You're back in your backyard, you and your boys are power sliding, right? What were you doing? You were locking up the rear brake and not really giving any of the front brake, and it was just sliding around. Also, if you were going to try that maneuver and you hit the front brake instead, what do you think was going to happen? You're just going to flip over the front, right? It wasn't going to want to try to slide at all. It's just want to go. Same thing with brake bias on the four wheels. You have oh man, there he goes. You have four wheels instead of two. So if you're going around the turn, right, and you're grabbing more rear brake than you are more front brake, then naturally that rear is going to try to turn more because it's got more grab in it. Conversely, if you put a lot of front brake in it, like I was saying, and you get down in the corner and you hit that brake, it might want to tend to push a little bit. It's not going to help that rear turn. You're not going to take some of that pressure off the front tires and help that rear rotate. So that's just. But if you're loose, maybe you want some more of that. Maybe you want some front brake. If you're tight, certainly you would want some of that rear brake. So it's a lot of your driving style and how you attack the corner, which is obviously your driving style, but how your setup is overall to begin with. There's a lot of, like I said, this is all fixed setup stuff. There's not a lot of adjustments, but there are a lot of adjustments. If you understand how it all works, especially like late in the race. If you get into a late race situation where maybe you come take tires, you don't take a lot of fuel, so that way it's not as free because you don't want all that weight. But now maybe you want to put a little bit more front brake in it because you're not going to have all that weight and it's not going to be as free and you're going to be able to sell it. So if you learn the adjustments and get it set up, it's way, way easier. So welcome to iRacing. I don't know if everybody here knows iRacing. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. This is iRacing. So within the garage tab, right, we're right here. We have 3 adjustments that we can make within a fixed setup race. Hide that. Do we have sound? Can you guys hear the iRacing or no? Let's see here. Audio. Yes. It would seem that we do have the show. Okay. So we have 3 adjustments we can make. Sorry, background noise. And those 3 adjustments are steering ratio, steering offset, and brake bias. Brake bias is a more complicated one, clearly. There's a little bit more involved with it. Steering ratio and steering offset, those goes hand in hand there. Steering ratio. Right now, the current stock default steering ratio is 12-1. This is the only, other than a road course, the only racetrack that I run 14-1 instead of 16-1. And what that means is, so stock 12-1 means for every 12 degrees of rotation you give the wheel, the front tires turn 1 degree. So it takes 12 degrees of wheel rotation to, and let me get at this Mosa pit house here. Where are we at here? All right. So we're at, I know this is backwards. So 12 degrees of rotation, and now the front tires have only turned 1 degree. So when we get to 24, okay, now the front tires have turned 2 degrees, and so on and so forth. What's that? 36. So now it's turned 3 degrees. So I run 16-1 most everywhere, right? So now mine is 16 to every 16 degrees. I've moved the tires 1 degree. Every 32 degrees, we've moved it 2 degrees, and so on and so forth, right? 48, we've turned it 4 degrees. So that's what steering ratio means. How much you turn the wheel versus how much the wheel moves. There's a lot of different opinions on what the best way to set up your steering ratio. I prefer a much larger steering box than a tighter steering box. I like to be able to I like to be able to I like to have to steer the car more to get it to turn. But in turn, I believe that opens up the window, if you will, of steering of steering angles and maximum steering ratios you can have. So like with a smaller steering ratio, right? 12 degrees is 1 degree of wheel movement. Well, what if you go 14? What if you're trying to turn and you really only needed, a couple degrees, but you go over that? Now you're scrubbing the tires. But if you open up your window to a bigger steering ratio, you give yourself a little bit more wiggle room. Now, granted, it takes a little bit more to save a car because now you got to come back the other way. However, we're going to work on tire saving. We're going to be there at the end. That's what we're going to do. Hang on just a second. Let me close this window. Okay. So, steering offset. What does iRacing say? Let's read this. Degrees of steering wheel offset achieved with a combination of installing the steering wheel into the quick release mechanism off center and adjusting the front tie rod ends. So, in other words, that's not going to affect your steering at all. That only determines where the wheel is in relationship to the center of the wheel. I normally run my wheel somewhere like that right there. I like when I'm in the turn for it to be at a certain spot. So when I'm going down the straightaway, my wheel is usually a little bit offset. Now, some people will swear up and down that steering offset helps them. iRacing says it doesn't. I say it doesn't. My brain says that it does because I agree with them. But it doesn't. But I agree with them that it does. I always run a +5 offset in a truck. Always. I don't get into messing with the offsets between different vehicles. Once I get an offset in this specific vehicle, that's what I run all the time. Even qualifying, I don't change my steering ratio for qualifying. Some people do. Some people won't do that. I prefer not to. I prefer to try to get the fastest lap I can get with the steering ratios and offsets and brake biases that I run. That way I don't have to worry about changing it for qualifying. So if I forget to change it back after qualifying, I don't have to worry about it, right? So it's my opinion. I could be right, I could be wrong, but it's my opinion that if you want to be the best racer that you can be, that you need to run your ratios and your offsets to exactly. Oh, hang on. Oh man. Oh, that was a practice session. Dang it. All right. Well, can we go back? Okay. Well, we're gonna have to open up another server. That's not a problem. So offsets, steering, like I said, I think that it helps because I like my wheel at a certain place in the turn. If it's not there, I don't like it. So I do believe mentally, I think it's all mentally, obviously. Hang on, we're gonna create this race and go back into another one here. Sorry, y'all. There we go. Okay. So, in between qualifying, in between races, like I said, I don't like to change my offsets. I don't like to change my ratio. I like to try to get the fastest lap I can with the ratio that I want to race. Because, like I said, if I forget to change it back after qualifying, which I've been known to do, I will not. I won't have to worry about that. I won't have to worry about the tire wear and whatnot. So, with that said, that was steering ratio and steering offset. Now I know I started with brake bias and kind of skipped back to it. But now we're going to come back to that, because that is if you can learn brake bias and if you can learn adjusting brake bias within your run, you're going to be able to get better right off the bat. You'll be able to your tires will last longer throughout the run. You'll have more pace throughout the run, and overall, you'll have a better finish, and your racecraft will pick up. Sorry. There is a program on. Where are we at here? There is a program to capture data called Stint Analyzer, and it is awesome. How do I get it? Where we at? I want to try to put the link for it in the. Oh, I don't see it. All right, so let's go in here. Couldn't remember how many we used. All right, so we're going into the server again. Sorry about that hiccup, y'all. I forgot to adjust the practice time. Man, that's the word I was looking for. Good news is we're going to get right into it. We already had the tutorial about steering ratio, steering offset. Like I said, iRacing, everybody says, the books say that it doesn't make a difference. I feel like it does, but it's just how your wheel is going to set at static. How do we get Stint Analyzer? All right, here we go. So, all right. I hope you guys can hear this. Can you guys hear the game or no? So remember, we're at 14-1, and we're going to be a +5. Now, let's go ahead and make some laps at the stock brake bias. It's 62.5% to the front, which means what, 37.5% to the rear, right? 37.5 to the rear. So that's not a whole lot of rear brake pressure. It's more front. Some people run more than that, but let's go make a couple laps and kind of see what it feels like, and then we'll speed through some of this. Oh, it's choppy, huh? Oh, that's too choppy. Wow. You can't hear it. Okay. All right. I wonder how we get the audio into there, huh? Shall we? Audio. Ta-da. Man, so why isn't... I wonder... Okay, well, Vincent, all right. So let me try to explain this the best I can because the video seems like it's going to be choppy, and you're not going to be able to hear it, unfortunately. So more front brake bias. If you're getting it like, and you can, this is a really easy way to test it, like really, really quick, especially if you're at a place like Martinsville. Easy test on pit road. Go into your garage. Um, go into your garage, go into the chassis department, and run your brake bias all the way down. And I mean as far down as it'll go. I think these are 40%. Okay. And then go out on pit road and speed, go at a decent clip, and hit the brakes and act like you're going to turn into your pit stall. Even if it's not your pit stall, no big deal. Hit the brakes and act like you're going to turn into your pit stall. And then you're going to see that it's going to want to try to spin out like instantly because you've got only 40% of your brake pressure going to the front. And now you would have 60% going to the rear. So you got a whole lot more grab in those rear brakes, and it doesn't take a lot to lock them up. Also, if when you after you do that, go back into your iRacing garage and run your brake bias all the way up as high as it'll go. 80%. No, sorry, 84% to the front. And what's that? 16% to the rear. That's virtually no rear brake pressure. Virtually none. So do the same test. Get down at the end of pit road, run down there, get a good speed going, and try to dive off into your pit stall, and see how that goes. You're gonna notice that it's gonna feel. See you, Chris. Thank you. You're gonna notice it's gonna feel a lot more spongy in the front end. There's gonna be a whole lot of brake grab in the front end, and it's just not. It's just not gonna want to get in there. And then once you figure that out, you kind of you know how that feels. Go out on the track and do it. And die like I really suggest using Martinsville because it's so over exaggerated how you got to get into the corner with a brake that any sort of adjustments here are uh enlarged is not the word I'm looking for. I know enlarged works. Not microscopic, no. Over just they're over dramatic, right? So if you dive off into the corner with 40% rear, 40% front brake, 60% rear, you got all the brake pressure in the rear. You get going down the front stretch and you dive off into turn one or turn three, you're probably going to lose it. Matter of fact, here, because I think the replay does good, but the live doesn't. So let me go out here and do this real quick. We're going to run it all the way down to 40, and we can see it on a replay. Now, ooh, hold up. I know you guys can't hear it, but did you see how quickly that spun out? We're going to get some telemetry on our screen here. Okay. Now we can see how much brake pedal I'm giving, right? We have our telemetry on our screen. So we'll get going down here. You see how that turns around very quickly and very easily? Let's go look at the replay of that. It seems to look good on the replay. See, all right, now. Okay, let me go in here and jack all this brake pressure back to the front. And then we'll struggle to spin out. See how it just goes straight? We'll do it again. I'll get going a little bit faster here. I'll go to the other straightaway. I'll go over to the front so I can get going faster. And you can kind of see it on the replay a little bit better. See how like you see how much wheel I had to put into it there? Let's go watch that replay there. So too much rear brake getting into the corner would cause the car to get loose, and too much front brake would cause the car to get tight. Bingo, bango, bungo. That is exactly correct. Now, as your tires wear, as you go longer into the race, this is where you want to learn, also how to set up your brake bias adjustment. Do you even know how to do that? I don't know. I don't know. So what you need to do is go over here to options in any garage. It's the same in any garage. Go to options and go down here to control, and then scroll down to your in-car adjustments. And your first option is brake bias set. Now I use my paddle adjusters for my brake bias adjustments. I have a gear shifter over here. I use my paddles for my brake bias adjusters. So I go, up and down, easy to manage. They're right there. I never have to take my hands off the wheel, and I know where they're at. So make sure that when you're learning this, you set up a set of buttons. You need two. You need up and a down. That's easy to manage, and you remember what they are and where they're at. So as you get going throughout the run, okay, now, oh man, we're 30 laps into the run. I'm kind of free getting in. Man, let me dial some front brake into this thing. So when I'm dragging the brake, I'll get a little bit of front brake pressure, kind of get it settled so it's not as free getting in, right? So that's another way you can adjust the car within the run to help manage your tires a little bit better. And once you figure all those little adjustments out, man, it's so much smoother. Now the thing is with Xfinity and trucks, you only get a plus or -3. So you get a 6% window, -3 +3. Cup cars, you get the whole window. You can go up all the way or down all the way. That's nice. But here's the thing about the +3, -3. Go out there and go as fast as you can go and get you qualifying laps using the most rigid, on edge brake bias you can use. Dial it up from there about 2, because sorry, 3, because that's the bottom end. That's as far as you want to be, right? So then go back into your adjustment in your garage. Go up 3, maybe 4, because maybe you don't want to go all the way down that far. Go up 3, maybe 4, and that will be your starting brake bias pressure, because at that point you can go loose or you can go tight, because now on the ragged edge I'm down here. So if I go up 3 from there, where I can come up from the ragged edge to a nice little starting point, and that way if I do get a little bit free, now I've still got 3 I can go up. So I've gone in a good range there. So the important thing is, when you're in the practice sessions and you're practicing your bonsai laps. Now, you should go practice race runs as well. Don't get me wrong. But when you're practicing the bonsai laps, that's how you can really figure out. Give me just a second one, Dustin. Oh, man. I shouldn't have looked up. I completely lost my train of thought. The up and down 6, I think. So, yeah, when you're practicing your bonsai laps, you should practice race runs. You absolutely should practice race runs. But if you're trying to get an idea of where you want your starting brake pressure to be, you need to figure out where your ragged edge is and work up from there, because that way okay, this is as far as I can go and be comfortable. Okay, let's work up from there. Trail braking. What is that? Is that when you're getting into the corner and dragging the brake, getting into the corner while still on throttle? Yes. You're not really. Let me see. Well, okay. So here we go. Right. So if I'm sitting here in Martinsville and I'm wide open throttle going in, I get my initial brake to get in the gas or to get into the corner. But let's say I'm a little bit tight. Okay, I give it, a kind of as I'm getting into there, I might give it a little bit of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 percent of pressure just to keep it stabilized getting into the corner. It's just again, if you're getting back into the throttle and you still got a little bit of rear brake, you're going to save some of your right front. It's gonna help turn the car with the rear tires. But yes, that is exactly what it is. Getting into the corner, just kind of leaving your foot, just trailing your foot on there, and helping it turn, assisting it turning throughout the corner when you get to the apex. So that way, when you get back up into the throttle, man, you're good to go. But that essentially is a quick breakdown of what brake bias is, how it works, and your fixed setup adjustments. There's only 3 of them we can make. Cup car, you got 4 because you can change the master cylinder size. We'll get into that in another episode. I don't run Cup much. I don't like the way those cars drive. I really enjoy the truck and the Xfinity cars, but oh wow, that's pretty much all of fixed setup adjustments and how to attack a brake bias adjustment within the fixed setups and how you can use those going forward. So thanks everyone for tuning in tonight. I hope that was helpful for you guys. I'm going to have a bunch more of these coming up. But thank you very much. We're going to get on out of here for the night. You guys keep digging.